Hello friends, this is Durga again from ITversity, a one-stop shop to learn all the technologies. So this is the second day 2 morning session for the Scala and Spark workshop. Let me start the WebEx session and then we will proceed. So those who join or who is joining from YouTube session, you can learn the content for free. It will be available forever. But if you want to practice and if you don't have environment to practice, you can sign up for my lab at labs.itversity.com. And you can go to the plans and you can choose one of these plans. Today, if you end up signing up for 6-month lab, let me know. You send email to training@itversity.com. And I will add you to the WebEx so that if you want to interact with me directly on WebEx, you can do it for free. Okay, you can join the WebEx session and you can interact with me directly as well. Otherwise, you just stick to YouTube live session and you can start practicing. And if you have any questions, what you have to do is in future, beyond this session, if any one of you have any question, just go to discuss.itversity.com. Okay, so this is the URL. Sign up and you can start asking questions over here. So that being said, let me start the YouTube WebEx session. I'm sharing my screen on WebEx and then we'll get started. Okay, so this is a very long session, so bear with me. If there's any pauses in between, because people are joining the session and initially it might be a little bit slow, and then we'll catch up very fast. Okay, so once again, those who are on YouTube live, if you want environment to practice as we proceed with the workshop, you just go to labs.itversity.com, sign up for the lab, and you will be able to practice most of these things. And if you are joining this session only for today, whether you are on WebEx or YouTube live, make sure you start setting up IntelliJ with Scala. So what you have to do is you search for Scala, download, go to this link, all downloads, and choose 2.10.6 and set up this one, IntelliJ IDEA with the Scala plugin. It will download the file. You have to install the community edition. If you go with Ultimate edition, it is 1 month free. After that, you have to pay for the license. Community edition is more than enough. Once you set up, it will ask you the first window will ask you to create a new project and other stuff. It will be like this. No, not like this. I'm closing IntelliJ. When you start for the first time, it will show something like this. Then you have to go to configure, go to plugins, and you can search for Scala here, and then you can click on this to install the Scala plugin for your IntelliJ. Okay. So once again, I'm showing when you launch IntelliJ for the first time, the community edition, it will come with you will get a window like this. Even if your ultimate window, you will see on the window will be a little bit different. On the bottom left corner, it will ask you to accept the defaults. Once you accept the defaults, it will show a window like this. And then you can go to configure, go to plugins, search for Scala, and you will see install if you are doing for the first time. You have to take care of this before you start developing the Scala projects or Spark-based applications. Okay. So make sure you set up IntelliJ if you are joining this session only today. If you joined yesterday, it is already taken care. Everyone who joined yesterday, I showed step-by-step instructions about setting up the environment. That being said, let's get started with today's agenda. Today's agenda is primarily on core Spark. So let us understand a little bit. Let us understand the agenda in detail. Yesterday we have covered Scala as a programming language. Today and tomorrow we will dig deep into Spark. So what all will be covered in the Spark? So if you, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to include as much as certification curriculum in the content. Okay. So two of the certifications which I'm covering 100% are CCA, Spark, and Hadoop Developer. That is one of the certification in which the entire Spark content will be covered as part of this session using Scala as programming language. And then another one is HTTP/CD Spark. Okay, so I clubbed everything that is important from both of these things and trying to run this course. So if you go to CCS, Spark, and Hadoop Developer, okay, if you scroll down, so if you look at the overall curriculum, it is broken into 4 pieces. One is data ingest. Second one is transform, stage, and store. Third one is data analysis, and fourth one is configuration. Except 1, 2, 3, and 4 is primarily Spark oriented. Okay. As part of this, they are primarily focusing on something called core Spark APIs. So I will explain what are those core Spark APIs as we go deep in the course. It is called as transformations and actions, and we will see what are they as we proceed with the course. And then Spark have modules. So core Spark is the foundation for Spark from developer perspective. On top of core Spark, there are modules, and one of the our most important module is Spark SQL and data frames. So I will, if you look at the curriculum of CCS, Spark, and Hadoop Developer, this is all about Spark SQL. Okay, so Spark SQL also will be covered extensively. And then this is about how you run your programs. And this also will be part of the course. And then when we need to submit the programs, we will see how we can do that. Okay. And on top of this, even as part of data ingest, they're talking about process streaming data as it is loaded onto the cluster. So this includes something called Spark streaming, which is second important module in Spark. Okay, and instead of just teaching Spark streaming, I am actually covering Flume, Kafka, and Spark streaming. So even though this is Scala and Spark workshop, unless you know all the moving parts, it will not make much of a sense. So I will be covering the integration of Flume, Kafka, and Spark streaming. So that is about CCS, Spark, and Hadoop Developer. Whatever is relevant with respect to Spark will be covered today and tomorrow. And we'll be leveraging the skills which we gain as part of yesterday's Scala session. And then another certification is HDP certified developer of Spark. And if you click on exam objectives here, it is divided into 2 major components. One is core Spark and the other one is Spark SQL. Most of this core Spark is similar to this. Okay, except that they have covered something called broadcast variables and accumulators. Okay, and also configure Spark properties. Okay, so we'll be seeing all those things as we proceed. So those things which are not covered as part of CCS Spark and Hadoop Developer, but relevant to HDP/CD Spark also will be covered. And then Spark SQL, it is almost similar to both. and we will be seeing those also. So on top of this, you need to understand few important concepts from um, file system perspective and data processing frameworks perspective. So I will be covering HDFS for file system extensively because we are talking about Hadoop and Spark. And Spark doesn't come with any file system. It runs on any file system that is available. It can be HDFS, it can be AWS S3, Amazon Web Services S3. It can be Microsoft Azure Blob. It can work with any file systems. Okay, so we will see extensively with HDFS. That is the most important one. Okay, and on top of that, Spark can whatever I have shown with respect to CCS Spark and Hadoop Developer and LDPCD Spark is primarily about developing the application. Once you develop the application, you have to submit it as a jar file, and you can submit that jar file in multiple execution frameworks. And one of the popular execution framework and which is relevant for the certifications is YARN. So wherever you need to understand those nuances of YARN up to within the scope of Spark also will be covered as we proceed with the course. Okay, so everything clear? Whoever is online and also in the classroom, so that we can proceed further. Okay, so do you have IntelliJ setup on your machine? Okay. So now let's proceed. I'll be primarily driving using CCS Spark and Hadoop Developer curriculum, and then we will revise whether everything with respect to it, HTTP CD Spark is covered or not, and if there are any differences, we will try to cover those things. Okay, and on top of that, I have few resources which you need to understand. So there is a website called discuss.itversity.com. If you are not a member of it, please sign up. Okay. So Rakesh Prajapati is saying he joined today itself. Can we use Eclipse for Scala development? Yes, you can use, but you have to set up Scala IDE plugin, and also you have to set up SBT. You have to set up many things, and it will take time. So rather than struggling with Eclipse, I will recommend you to download IntelliJ fresh and use IntelliJ. Okay, that will be my recommendation, Rakesh. Okay, anyway, everyone, please go on to discuss.itversity.com. You can sign up by clicking on this. Let me open another window. Okay, so I'm going to discuss.itversity.com here using Safari. So if you are coming here for the first time, you will see sign up and login icons here. So you can click on sign up. You can sign up is either by using Google Plus or Facebook or with local authentication. Okay, once you finish, you will be able to log in. Initially, you will not have too many permissions, but eventually you will get. So be just patient for a few days. Everything will fall in place. So what is this discuss.itversity.com? It is just a forums-based website which is set up by us using some open source platform. And how it is relevant to this course? So if you choose category called big data, there is a subcategory called workshop exercises. Okay, and here under 0 series, you have bunch of exercises. So like exercise 02, set up development environment, exercise 04, deploy and run word count application on the cluster. Exercise 5, develop Spark application using Scala to get daily revenue per department, so on and so forth. Okay, just to follow from exercise 02, then go to exercise 04, and go in a series. Probably there should be a way to sort these topics. Okay, it is only by views, activity, and replies. I cannot sort by topic itself. It is sad. Anyway, I will whoever is part of the course, I will tell which exercise needs to be done after each topic. Okay, so you have to follow this. It has many exercises, but just to stay focused on Spark based exercises. Okay. Okay, so this is another very important resource. And also, if you have any questions, don't ask questions on the exercise. Use the exercise just to paste your response, or just to review if someone else actually pasted the response already. If you have any questions, okay, with respect to programming using Scala or Spark, what you have to do, you have to go to the categories, go to big data category. In that, there is Apache Spark category. And in that, you can create a topic by clicking on this, and you can start typing the question like this: running Spark job on the cluster. And then as you start typing, if there are any relevant topics, it will show you here. You can first review those things. If none of these questions does not answer, does not provide solutions for you, or if none of these topics doesn't provide solutions for you, you can create a new topic. And also, before actually writing the topic, you can also search here. Okay, and you can choose the once you choose the category, it will primarily search in that category itself. Then you can pick the topic and see if it provides solution for you. Otherwise, you can raise the topic. If no one does not answer to your issue within 24 hours to 48 hours, you can shoot me an email at training@itworks.com. But you have to be a little bit patient. There are army of volunteers who are answering the questions. You will get the response. So I hardly look into these things, and 80%, 85% of the questions are being answered by different people. Okay, so you can use this one to if you run into any issues while developing. So that being said, now let us get started with the content. I will recommend everyone to start IntelliJ and keep it open. And also yesterday, I have asked you guys to download Spark binaries, compressed tar file. Okay, you should have downloaded by now. So it will look like this. If you look at the bottom, you can see Spark 1.6.2. So it will look like this if it is already downloaded. If it is not downloaded, just search for Spark 1.6.2 download like this. Means if you haven't set up yet, this is not mandatory, but having this one will help you in performing the unit testing or validating your programs outside IntelliJ. So Spark 1.6.2 download, you can search for it. Go to downloads Apache Spark. This is if you haven't downloaded already. Here, don't use 2.1. Try to use 1.6.2 or 1.6.3, and then you will get the compressed tar file here. You just click on that, and it will download like this. Once it is downloaded, if you are using Windows, copy that directory to whatever location you want to have that software. Okay, and then you have to uncompress it and create a directory out of it, and you have to update the path in environment variable. So I will demonstrate how to do that in Gautam's laptop. Okay, so I'm no audio. I think it's only with you, Ram. One minute, Ram. Okay, you cannot hear. It's coming, right? Okay, Let's see, he might be able to dial in. Okay, so I'm making Gautam as the presenter. No, that's fine. I will tell you, you can take care of it. So you can share your screen, go to Quick Start and click on Share Screen. Okay, so you copy the, have you downloaded it already? Which one? This one, right? So you copy it to whatever location you want. You can unzip it and then copy it to whatever location you want. Is it stuck at 50%? 15%? I think it will take some time. Okay, Madhav, what is the problem? If you, I will check. Just give me a moment, okay? Meanwhile, you finish this off, set up the Spark, and then I will have a look at your IntelliJ setup. Okay, so once you copy to whatever location you want, it is very important to set the path to the bin directory of your Spark installation. If you want, you can add sbin also, but bin is enough. Sbin is required only if you want to start the Spark pseudo cluster and all those things. Bin will have the commands such as Spark shell, PySpark, etc. And to set up Spark, I think you need to set up Scala also. If you don't have Scala, it might fail. So if it fails, most of us who joined yesterday have set up Scala also already, so it will not be an issue for them. But if it fails, then we will see how to fix that issue. So copy this path. Okay, go to control panel. You can search, or you can actually search for environment variables directly. In the search console, if you are using Windows 8, you can search for environment variables. Okay, then it will pop up like this. Click on environment variables and then go to the system variables and go to path. Path is the fourth one. Yeah, click on edit. Make sure click on edit again, or you can actually say new. new. Click on new and paste it. Okay, so this is how you have to add the Spark bin to the environment variables path. Click on OK. Okay, I hope everyone done that. I will give 30 seconds for this. It should not take very long, or 1 minute. And also I will finish the validation, then I will give 1 minute. Click on OK. Go to command prompt. You have to open a new one. It will not work in the existing ones. Okay, and you can run spark-shell. Spark-shell. No, -shell. There is no space after Spark. Okay, so it is launching Spark shell for him. So Windows guys, please start setting up the environment variables and try starting Spark shell the way Gautam have done. Meanwhile, I will show how to set it up on Mac or Linux-based systems. So in Mac or Linux-based systems, okay, let me make self as presenter. So let me know if you get any exceptions, Gautam, because now we are not seeing your screen. Okay, I will see. So he got an exception. I will see that. But first, let me show how to set up on Mac. So it is in my downloads. Okay, so I can copy the compressed tar file using cp command from downloads to wherever I want. I want to copy to this location. I have already copied, so I'm just showing you the command. Dot is current directory, so it will copy to the location where you are in. So in this case, you can see the tar file here. On Linux-based systems or Windows-based systems, once you copy it to the location you want, you can say tar xzf to uncompress and untar and give the tar file name, which is this one. Okay, once that is done, it will create a directory like this. You can see it here. Okay, so one of the best practices, instead of creating environment variables which have the version, create a soft link like this. So in this case, I have the directory with this name, and I'm creating a soft link. Okay, once you are done with it, you go to your dot profile or bash profile. In my case, it's a dot profile, and set up Spark home and path like this. So I will copy paste these comments. Okay. So let me start from the beginning. That I will take from tar command. Once you copy to the desired location, go there, run this command first, and then create a soft link. This is just a best practice. You can also directly create Spark home to this directory also. But what I have done, I have created a soft link by name Spark, and then I have added Spark home, and I have appended bin to the path. Okay, so these are the steps which you need to take care as part of Linux-based systems or Macs. Okay, now if I run Spark shell, it will actually launch the Spark shell. In my case, it will launch, so I'm again passing it to Gautam and see what error he got, and then I will take it from there. I will try to troubleshoot for others also. You can share your screen, Gautam. Yes, Madhav, you can post the question meanwhile. While we troubleshoot the Gautam's issue, you can post the question meanwhile. Okay. So here, whenever you get errors like this, please grant the control to me. happened? It is slow. Okay. Just give me a moment, okay? I did not connect to cable. Let me connect to the cable. And those who are on YouTube, if it get disconnected, let me know. I will immediately connect. Where is the cable? Okay, for Madhav, he's saying, okay, wait a minute. Let me troubleshoot the Gautam's session and then I will show. Okay, so I hope people can see the YouTube session. File. Let me see if it works. Yeah, now it is working. Let me also validate the YouTube. Okay, it seems to be good. If you cannot see the screen, okay, the sharing is dropped. Let me try sharing it again. Okay, now you should be able to see the screen. If not, let me know. Just let us confirm that they can see the screen and then we'll proceed. Okay, now you should be able to see the screen. Yeah. So let's proceed. Okay. So now I am actually in the Gautam's computer. Okay, let me exit from here. Okay, now let me start Spark shell and see what exception he's getting. Madhav, have you set up Scala yesterday? So everyone else, are you guys able to launch the Spark shell without any issues? Can you scroll up a little bit? I'm not able to scroll. Or it is taking too much of time. Okay, it is saying Hive metastore verification is not enabled, so recording the schema version. That is fine. This is not a showstopper. Can you just type SC and hit enter? SC and just hit enter. So here what's happening is when we start Spark Shell, it will launch with a couple of implicit objects. One is SC, which represents a Spark context, which is more important to run core Spark programs. And the other one is SQL context, which is used to run SQL queries. Because we haven't configured with Hive, it is failing to create that SQL context. But SC is working fine. So that being said, we can proceed further. We can start writing core Spark programs and all here. When it comes to running the Spark SQL, we have to use lab anyways. We will not be doing on our PC. Okay, because it requires the Hive data, Hive and all. As we are not going to set up Hive on our PCs, we will not be able to run directly on our PC. Okay. So that being said, Shravani, you also have to run this SC command and make sure it actually does not fail and give you the data type of the SC. I think for you also it's the same thing. So you are also good to go. And now let us troubleshoot Madhav's issue, why he is not able to start IntelliJ. So I'm stopping Gautam's screen. And I am giving Madhav presenter rights. And you can share your screen and show me what's going on. Madhav, you have to share your screen. Huh? I think he is watching from YouTube. It will be lagging behind. Okay, so first, close that session, close the command prompt and launch it again. Yeah, launch it again. Okay, let me take the control. So I'm closing your, yeah. Okay, that means you did not set up the environment variable properly. So start your, go to your computer, click on my computer and Okay, go to path. Okay, copy this. I think your path is incorrect. Copy that path, whatever you have pasted here. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be faster. Okay, let me take the control. Mm. Yeah, you got it. Okay, this is Scala. Okay, not this one. Now if you click on this, yeah. So you gave the wrong path, man. See here, you have 2.60 here, whereas the path is 2.6. Okay. So this is the path which you need to give, but if you go to your environment variable, you have 2.60. Go to your environment variable. Yeah, click on OK. Okay, now open. I don't know. You have to look into that. And also, if you see, you have space in your files, in your path. Yeah, in your path, you have spaces. You should not have spaces like this. You have to put it in double quotes or something. Okay, anyway, I'm moving forward. Let me fix your IntelliJ. Okay, let me check what is the issue with your IntelliJ. Can you go to the desktop? So IntelliJ is working, right? Let me fix this. Okay, so I'm proceeding further because it will be behind. I am sharing my screen now. Okay. So there is one question from Himanshu. Why do I recommend 1.6.2 rather than 2.1.0? Because I am covering certification curriculum, and the certification curriculum is primarily on 1.6.2. Okay, if you go to CCS Spark and Hadoop Developer, and if you scroll down here, as part of the documentation provided in the certification, they are providing 1.6.0 certification, and also the exam will be conducted on Cloudera version of cluster which is running on 5.10, and that one will have 1.6 Spark. Okay, so that's why I'm covering 1.6 rather than 2.1. So that being said, or 2.10, whatever is the latest version. That being said, CCP, there is no Spark in CCP. CCP data engineer is a little bit different. I'm not sure about if they have changed it recently, but earlier they don't have Spark as part of CCP. Okay, so CCP is different. HDP CD is also Spark 1.6. Okay. What is that? See, no. What they are saying is, as part of this cluster, you will have all these things. It's not that you need to know all these things. Okay, and if you go up here, one of the, sorry, there is one topic in my forums, which is discuss.itversity.com. Here you can go to certifications category. Okay, and then so this is actually started by Cloudera itself. Okay, some person from Cloudera actually posted this, and someone have asked about which language should we use. So the answer is, questions typically follow business requirements. They will not say use Spark, use Hive, use Pig. Okay, but typically they will give business requirements, and approach is, they don't care about your approach. As long as results are correct, it is marked as correct. Okay, you just have to make sure that results are stored as per their instructions. In some cases, to provide solutions, so for most of the problems, there can be a number of solutions. But for some problems, there can be only one solution. In that scenario, you have to use only the tool which can solve the problem. Okay, so that's the thing. So don't worry about whatever they provide, and stay focused on whatever you want to build as your skill. We are covering Spark because that is the most important thing as of today. Okay. So I hope everyone have access to Spark Shell. Okay, and that Spark Shell is nothing to do with whatever we have in the IntelliJ. But why I ask you to set up the Spark Shell? In case if you want to test your program as a jar file, you can run it through Spark Shell, and on top of Spark Shell, in that bin location, you will find a few other commands like PySpark, Spark Submit, and all those things. So once you develop with IntelliJ, and once you build the jar file, if you want to test the jar file on your local machine and then ship it on the cluster, having Spark itself will can come handy. So that's why I wanted you to set up Spark Shell on your PC as well. Otherwise, it's not mandatory. As long as you have IntelliJ with the Scala plugin, it is not mandatory to have Spark Shell. Okay. So that being said, let us start with our first program using Spark. We will be using IntelliJ. So yesterday I have created this project called S&S, Scala and Spark Workshop, right? And we have created few programs, a few classes and all those things while exploring Scala. Now we will start writing our first program, which is work-on program. Okay. So first and foremost, if you are using IntelliJ as IDE, for certification purpose, you don't need to use IntelliJ, but for all other practical purposes, to develop the projects and all, either you have to use IntelliJ or you have to use Eclipse with Scala plugin. Okay, so we are covering beyond the certification. That's why I'm showing to use IntelliJ wherever we want to develop the program. For certification exam, you can just write a series of commands, Scala commands in a script, and you can execute the script, or you can execute individual commands also. And as part of the exam, they provide Sublime Text as editor. So either you can use VA editor if you are very comfortable with it, or you can go with Sublime Text. Also, they provide IntelliJ. So if you want to develop in IntelliJ first and then test it on and then run it on the cluster which they provide, you can do that out as well. Okay. Anyway, we will be using IntelliJ with Scala plugin. First thing is when we add the Scala plugin, that doesn't bring Spark APIs. Okay, it only bring Scala APIs. So now we are trying to use a third-party product which is called a Spark, so that we can develop Scala-based programs. For that, there is an implicit variable called library dependencies, which is nothing but a collection. And here we have to provide, means we are updating that collection. I think it's an array or list. I think it's an array. We are updating this array by adding a new dependency. Okay. If you are Java developer, if you are familiar with Maven, in form.xml, there are three tags which are mandatory. One is group ID, second one is artifact ID, and third one is version. So here also we need to get the group ID, artifact ID, and the version, and we have to add it to the dependency. But instead of XML, we will be using Scala syntax in build.fbt. So whatever we are trying to do in build.fbt is primarily Scala syntax. Okay. So here I want to use Spark 1.6.2 compiled with 2.10 Scala. Okay. And search for repository and click on this. So to build core Spark programs, we have to add this dependency. Are you in WebEx? Okay, I will send you the invitation. Just let me send WebEx invitation for one more person, not this one. Copy meeting URL. And how can I invite this one? But it is giving everyone. Okay. Me, are you? LLA. Okay, so you can add this one to the build.sbt. Okay, and you save it. For the first time, it will take around 15-20 minutes because it has to download so many dependencies. As I have been running this for quite some time, these are cached for me, so it will be fast. But for those who are actually doing for the first time, it will take a while to download these dependencies. Let me ping on the YouTube session also. You guys have to add this dependency in build.fbt. Okay, once this is done, so you add this and save it and follow me. I will be covering by the time the download will be happening, will happen for you. Okay, once you add the library dependencies like this, we are updating the existing program, its application itself, which is S&S, or project itself, which is S&S. And then I am creating a new Scala class of type object. Okay, because I want to create main function and all those things. And then name it as word count. Okay, so in Scala, the file name can be anything, and object or class name can be anything. There is no relationship between the file and the classes and objects. So here for object you can give anything. So let us name it as word count. Okay. And first thing what we have to do, we have to define main function. So def main, give the argument name. Similar to Java, it also take array of string. So this is how we define in Spark, sorry, in Scala, and then no need of return type. It will pick unit automatically, which is similar to void. Okay. First, let us make sure that this program is running, and then we will add the rest of the stuff to get the word count. One word count. So once you save it, it will start downloading. So wait until it is done and follow me whatever I'm doing. Don't run any programs now. So hello world is working. So I'm deleting this one. It's not automating automatically. Okay. Because the data import option is not come up. Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to counter the value. Okay, so for some people, if the download does not start automatically. So how to confirm whether the download started automatically? Here, you will see the progress. For me, it is done, so it is not showing the progress. But for others, it should show progress here. If it is not showing the progress, then go to build.sbt, and here you will see a bulb icon like this. And then you will see refresh project, update project, something like that. So click on refresh project, and then the progress will start. Typically, when you try to create a new project, okay, and choose Scala SBT like this, and click on next. When it prompts you to create the project name, you will see this use auto import option. If you choose that, automatically when you create the dependencies, it will refresh your project. But for some people, for some reason, auto import option is not coming up. In that scenario, you have to refresh whenever you add the library dependencies. Okay. So now I'm going into word count program. So here we are trying to develop Spark-based application. Okay. So there are a bunch of packages which will be downloaded, a bunch of jar files which will be downloaded because of this dependency, and those jar files will have all Spark based packages, and one of them is arg.apache.spark, which is the main package for all your Spark binaries. And to develop your program, you have to import SparkConf and SparkContext. Only these two are required, not others. How to import only two? If you say underscore, you will get everything. If you just want to import two out of all these packages, you just have to put both of them comma separated in curly braces. So here I am saying SparkConf and SparkContext. Okay, and with IntelliJ, even if you don't add an import, they will be added automatically whenever you try to use those things. Okay, now first what we have to do is we have to create an object which will store the Spark configuration. Okay, so you have to say val conf equal to new Spark conf, and you have to set application name and master in which you want to run the program. For now, we will just so application name should be a readable name for your program. In this case, it's word count. And also you have to set master. For now, we will leave it as local. I will explain what is this little bit later. For now, just remember that you set master like this. So let us understand what we are trying to do. So any software, whether it is Spark or Hadoop or even Java, take anything. Okay. How whenever you try to use it, there will be a configuration for the software, right? It could be in the form of XML file, it could be in the form of properties file, it could be in the form of YML file, it could be of any format. So when it comes to SparkConf, when you try to create the Spark configuration object, it will pick all the properties that are passed to that session. So there will be bunch of properties files which will be there, or there will be default values. So either you will have properties file or you will have default values. So where we will have properties file, here we are trying to use a third-party Spark plugin by defining the library dependencies. So it will inherit all default values. There won't be any properties file. But if you talk about our cluster, here I am logging into my cluster, our cluster. Okay. I'm logging in as one of the lab users here. And then if you go to etc Spark, this is the location where you will get the proper configuration files for Spark on our cluster. And if you do ls-ltr, there are few files such as sparkenv.sh, sparkdefaults.conf, etc. And if you look into those things, sparkdefaults.conf, there are n number of parameters which will control the behavior of the Spark at runtime. Okay. And also, if you look into sparkenv.sh, this also has certain environment variables. And also there will be some properties in this. On top of these things, there will be log4j.properties also. Okay. So all these things which are defined as properties in multiple files constitute the configuration. So when you say, as part of your program, when you say new Spark conf, it will inherit all the things which are set as defaults in those properties files. And then if you want to override, there are multiple ways to override. One is, if you want to override any parameter, okay, you can say set new Spark conf dot set, just set. And you can give the key and value. So let us say in this case, we have at spark defaults.conf. Let us say Spark yarn queue is here it is set as Spark yarn queue. Here it's set Spark yarn queue to default. If you want to override that and add to a different queue, don't worry about what this queue is and all. It is not that important. But let's say you want to override that. You can just say set. Okay, give the parameter name. What is the parameter name? Spark.yarn.queue. So we have to give spark.yarn.queue. And then value is also string. You just have to give that. So you can use that set method to override any parameter on the configuration object. And then this app name and master are also kind of properties only. But for you, instead of remembering what are the properties, they actually provided the helper methods which come handy to set some of these important properties, whether it is application name or execution master, etc. So if you directly want to set the app name, you can set .set app name and give the value directly, or you can also use .set, identify the property which actually will be used to set the app name, give that as key, and provide the value for which is nothing but your application name. Okay, so typically for those where there are handy methods, we should use handy methods. It is a best practice, but you should be familiar with the set method also if you have to override certain properties. Okay. So now this conf will have the entire configuration of the software which will be used at the runtime, and we can override whatever you want, and then you have to create something called SparkContext. Okay, and sc equal to, and here you have to create SparkContext object by passing configuration as parameter. Okay, so in this case, something called SparkContext object will be created. So the data type of SE is SparkContext. The type of conf is SparkConf. And while creating SparkContext object, we have to pass the configuration object. Okay. So once the SparkContext object is created, now we can start reading the files from the underlying file system. Okay, what could be the underlying file system? Spark doesn't have any default file system with it. Spark is nothing but just a distribution framework which can be used to process the data. It doesn't have any underlying file system for it, but it can work on any file system. And to work on any file system, it uses HDFS APIs. Okay, so it requires some set of jar files to read from any file system. If it is Java, you see file system, file, and there are a bunch of binaries, buffered reader, buffered writer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that is to read the files. And then you should be able to read from multiple file systems. So first of all, you need to understand the difference between a file system and file format. So what is file system? HDFS is a file system. NFS is a file system. S3 is a file system. WSB or Reduce blob is a file system. What is file format? Text file is a file format. PDF is file format. MP4 is a file format. Okay, depending upon what you are trying to do with that file, you will define the format. Okay, so first you need to understand that which file system you are trying to read the data from. Okay, let's say you want to read the data from local file system. Okay, so in this case, I am trying to run it locally on my machine, and it is by default integrated with local file system. Okay, and the way you can read is this SC have bunch of APIs. Out of them, there is an API called text file. Better is if you go to Spark shell. So meanwhile, before we proceed further, so there is a difference between when you launch Scala and when you launch Spark shell. Okay, Scala, when you on your PC you have Scala, you have Spark shell, right? When you launch Scala, only Scala binaries will be available for you. You can write Scala-based programs. If you want to write Spark-based programs, you have to create library dependencies and all those things, and then only Spark APIs will be available to you, and you will be able to write the programs. On top of it, on your local machine, we have set up Spark, and we have updated our binary, our path to the binary directory of the Spark, and our Spark shell is available from anywhere. And when you launch the Spark shell, what it is doing, it is taking Scala, and it is automatically adding all the binaries that are required to write Spark-based programs. Okay. On top of it, it also creates something called SparkContext with SC. So when you try to use this environment, Spark shell, to write your programs, these two are not mandatory. You should not do this. When you launch Spark shell, automatically SC is available to you. You can start writing your programs directly using SC dot. Okay, that's why you first, when you start, you just have to type SC and hit enter. And as long as the type of this SC is SparkContext, if it says not found, that means your SC is not created properly, and hence you will not be able to use it further.
This SQL context is using a program. Windows only will problem.
I don't know. I need to troubleshoot that issue, but for now, yeah. But for now, let us defer it. Probably we might have to add few more binaries or something. So, it is not that important for now. So we will see later how we can fix that issue. So anyway, as long as SC returns this thing, you are good to go. And now, if you type SC dot and hit tab, you can see bunch of binaries here. Okay, so there few of them is to primarily read files from the file system. So for now, we just want to focus on those things. What are they from this list? One is sc.text file. So if you have text file, when I say text file, forget about the extension. Extension is not important. As long as the files can be read using any tools which can read the text data, we can pass them as text files. We can use this text file API, which will read one record at a time and create an RDD. What is an RDD? I will explain later. Okay, but this text file is the one which is used to read text files. When I say text file with text format to process further. Similarly, there is a special type called sequence file. If you want to read the sequence file, you can use this API. There is a special type called object file. If you want to read files from object files, we can use this API. And then, more importantly, there are a couple of APIs with Hadoop in that. One is new API Hadoop file, and the other one is Hadoop file itself. Okay, Hadoop file, new API Hadoop file. So you should be familiar with all these things: text file, sequence file, object file, new Hadoop file, and Hadoop file. Hadoop file is not that important, but you should know why there are two to read files from Hadoop. Okay, I will explain later. Okay, so to read the text file, we can use text file, and let us see, or let us create a file to read. So in my machine, under my home directory, I have research and then data, and here there is a directory called word count. Sorry, not word count. There is a file called wordcount.txt. Okay, so I am in this directory, user site diversity research data, and I have a file called wordcount.txt, which is small file, only 774 bytes, not a big thing. Just to validate, it will be easier for us to just have some small file. So I have created this word count with some random text. Okay, this I got it from wiki. You can get anything and create a text file. So we'll be using this path. So this is the location. So by default, our Spark, which is set up on our file system, is integrated. Sorry, in our PC, is integrated with local file system. So as it is integrated with local file system, we don't need to give the protocol. We just have to give the path. Okay. So in this case, I just want to read one file, not all the files in the directory, and hence I'm giving that file path, fully qualified file path. And here we have to create a variable. So let us create as lines and hit enter. Now you see it has created something called, lines is of type RDD of string. So because we are using text file, so it is similar to our list, right? Yesterday we created list. How it will look like if you create list of strings, it will look like this. Okay. So what is list here? It is nothing but a collection. Similar to that, RDD is also a special type of collection. What are those specialties? We will see later. For now, let us focus on reading files from the file system. Okay, and I will explain this further. So first thing is we should validate that whatever we are trying to do is working. So immediately you give the you create the variable, just run this command lines.count and see if it is working or not. Or you can also say lines.first and see if it gives the first line or not, first element in the collection or not. We will see these things again, but for now, just remember that these are several ways to perform the sanity checks that our uh, uh, whatever path is given is correct. Even though this is successful, for example, let me give some incorrect path. This is not a correct path, but still this step executed successfully. Okay, but when I say lines.count, it failed because that path is not available. The reason is the execution will not happen immediately when it comes to writing Spark programs. Okay, it will create something called DAG until it sees an action. What is an action? We will see later, and I will explain this again. Until it sees an action, it will create a DAG. DAG means directed acyclic graph, and only when it sees action, it will execute the DAG. At the time of the DAG, it will start evaluating these paths and all those things at the time of executing the DAG. So in this case, count is one action, and when we pass count when we invoke count API, it try to execute the DAG. Because the path is not valid, it throws an error. So until you are very comfortable with it, once you give the path and try to read the files from the file system, it is a good practice to validate either by using lines.count or lines.first. Lines.first is much more reliable than lines.count. Lines.count might take very long time if there is too much of data. Okay, so if this is not integrated with local file system, how can we read this? What we have to do is we have to give a protocol called file protocol. So this is how it will look like this if it is not integrated with local file system by default. So now I'm logging onto the cluster to show what it means. So this one I executed on my local file system. This one I am executing on the cluster. So I have passwordless login to my root. That's why I first log in as root and then switching to a lab user similar to yours. So whenever you log in, you will be logging to your ID like this. This is my ID in lab. You will be logging in with your ID. Okay. So here I have set up this cluster using Hortonworks distribution. And we have Hadoop as well as Spark integrated together. Because Hadoop and Spark integrated together, if I, so first of all, when it comes to file system, you need to understand the difference between the local file system and other file systems. So here, when I run ls-ltr, I'm trying to get the details about the files on local file system. Okay. But if I want to access something on Hadoop or HDFS, there is a command called Hadoop SFS, and using Hadoop SS, I will be able to access the HDFS. Okay, so here I can say ls user dgajraju. This is my home directory in HDFS, and I have to say Hadoop SS-ls. Don't worry too much about this. I will explain later. And these are the files which we have. And if you see, there is a wordcount.txt in HDFS. So I will try to read this one and also local file using Spark Shell. Okay, so first we need to launch Spark Shell. So if many people try to run the Spark Shell at the same time, it might complain several times that port is already in use, and then it might start the session properly or it might fail. We will see whether it will create the session properly or not in a moment. And then if it fails, I will give you the resolution.
has launched properly.
Yeah, it has launched, so no one using Spark at this time on the lab. Okay. So now it is launched properly, and by default, when you launch Spark Shell, it will also launch in local mode. So if I submit any job, it will run in local mode. What is that local mode? What is the R mode and all? I will cover later. Okay, but whether it runs in local mode or distributed mode, it is integrated with HDFS directly. So now, if I try to um, let me do one more thing. I'm launching one more session to the lab. Okay, so there is a file called wordcount.txt here, and this is the local path of that file /home /bgajraju and wordcount.txt. This is the local path of this file. Okay, let me try reading this file. I'm giving this path. I copied that path, and here I'm saying val lines equal to sc.text file. So there is an autofill enabled with Scala. So if you're not sure about the APIs that are available on an object, after dot you can hit a tab and it will list all of them. And also while typing, also you can actually hit a tab after typing few characters, and it will automatically fill up to the point where there are no up to the point where there are duplicates, and then you have to proceed further. Okay, you can leverage this autofill, and then I'm pasting that path here and hit enter. So it has updated the DAG, and it is saying that at runtime this will be converted into an RDD. The data which is there in the text file will be converted in RDD, and this is the data type of it. So this is called as lazy evaluation. Building the DAG until the action is seen is called lazy evaluation. It is not default in Scala, but it is available in Scala. For Spark, it is default. Okay, so all the programs will be evaluated lazily in Spark. Okay, now if I run lines.count, hit enter. Even though the path exists locally, it is complaining input the path does not exist, and if you see, it is looking in HDFS. Okay, because when I set up the cluster using Hortonworks, automatically it has integrated the Spark with HDFS by default. So HDFS have become the default file system. So if you do not explicitly specify the protocol, it will try to read the files from HDFS in our lab. For the work clusters at your work environment, if you end up working on Spark-based projects, it all depends upon how your administrators have configured. If they configure HDFS as default file system, it will try to read from HDFS. If it's configured to S3 by default, it will try to read it from S3. If it is configured for local file system, it will try to read it from local file system. So you need to confirm with your admins how they have set up, and then you can decide whether to use protocol or not while working with default file system for your Spark. So in my case, on the lab, for the Spark, the default file system is HDFS. On my local PC, the default file system is whatever local file system is there on my Mac. Okay, so now I am changing. So to read this from the local file system, I just have to say file : / and hit enter. Now if I say lines.count, we'll get the data. Okay, so there is only one line in this, and it returns that one. Okay, now if I give the without path if I give the HDFS location, what is the HDFS location? It is /user/port count, sorry, my ID, and then word count.txt. I'm giving fully qualified path of the file, and then run lines.count, and I can see the data. Okay, so it is very important to understand what is the default file system. And also, when you use local mode to execute, then only we'll be able to use this file protocol and read the files locally. If you are running in distributed mode, it will not work. Okay, so to validate and all, you can use this file protocol and access files locally. But when you are running in distributed mode, you will not be able to access it, because that local file system is local to only the machine where it is running. But when we submit the job will be submitted and executed on some other node in distributed fashion on the cluster. And this local file system doesn't mean anything for them. So it will start complaining that file does not exist. Okay. Hence, we only have to use distributed file systems such as HDFS, cloud-based file systems which can be accessible anywhere by passing credentials, such as S3, Azure Blob, or HTTPFS, or some other file system which can be accessed using over the network. Only those things could be used when you run the jobs in distributed mode. We will see that again.
So when you submit the Spark submit from the one, you won't consider that is your local file.
No, the file system will not be considered as local file system for the job, because
So writing the logs.
writing logs is different story. Writing logs is different. Here we are talking about data that needs to be processed. To write the logs, also it actually first write it in the worker nodes, and then it will copy it back to Spark job history server, which can be accessed from anywhere. Okay, so we will see that later. Don't mix up the data and the logs. Those two are different. We are talking about data only here. So there is a question from online. I will show that. I don't know your first name, Jajati. I will show how the Spark is deployed, and then you will understand. For now, let's focus on the development part of it. Once the development is done, we will get into the execution, and at the time I will cover. Okay, for now, just understand how you can read the files from the local file system or HDFS using sc.text file. We are limiting our discussion only to text data. We will see other file systems as we proceed a little bit further. First, let us finish off the word count program. Okay, so now we got the syntax to read files from the local file system. Here I am using this one. So okay, so I will show one more thing. So here, this is the most important thing to actually keep your your Scala console and your project in sync. It's very important. So follow very closely. Okay, so here earlier I have started Spark shell. What is this Spark shell? We have set up the Spark on our machine, and when we launch Spark shell, it is launching Spark shell from the Spark binaries. And then we have created the projects. We have created the project in this location, idea projects, and then my project name is S&S. Okay, so this is the base directory for my project which I am working, which I am using on IntelliJ. Okay, so here, once you are in the base directory of your project, in which you are actually developing the code, you can run a command called sbt console. Okay, so make sure you have build.sbt in this location and also src directory in this, and then you can run sbt console. So when you run sbt console, whatever dependencies that are defined in the build.sbt, it will make sure that dependencies are registered, and then it will launch the console. Okay, so here this is the Scala console with Spark binaries available to it, because we have defined the dependencies in build.sbt. Okay, and here to, to start testing it, first you need to import. I will take the question in a moment, Jajati. Let me finish this. So you can import this thing. There is no need, if you want, you can write the object and you can actually invoke the object also. But to perform the sanity check, you just have to write the code in interactive fashion. Okay. So conf is created and then SC is created. So you can see what is happening on the console. If you try to create the SC, what it will do is it will actually create a web service with some port number. Okay, and that will take the control of executing your Spark applications as we proceed further. Okay, so once we do that, we can actually read this, copy this code snippet, and we can actually test here also. Okay, so this is how you should use SBT based console with all the dependencies as per your project. It's very important step, and I'm reiterating again. So what you have to do, go to the base directory where you have developed the project. You can get that directory from this. This tilde represents home directory / idea project / s&s. So I'm in the same location. This is my home directory, which is represented by tilde in IntelliJ. You can also, I think, right click on this and say copy path, and then you can say cd and copy the path. You will go to that location, and then make sure if you copy from there and if you paste, you will see build.sbt here. And as long as build.sbt have the library dependencies with your Spark role and all, you should be able to run Spark SBT console, and then it will register all the dependencies and make it available for you to test your code in interactive fashion. Okay, and if you want to get the history, there is column history, and see the history here. So this is what I have executed earlier. So I'm only copy pasting these things and running them again. History is a very important, very handy command. Okay. So let me take the question of Jajati. Yes, I will cover this in detail. When we go to the execution, I will cover this in detail. For now, we are actually focusing on the developing aspect. Okay, so don't mix up the execution framework while with the development. Even though I refer few things, if you could get it, that is fine. Even if you do not get it, you can ignore it for now. We'll come back to this and we will reiterate, and it will be clear to you. Okay, so now I hope every one of you, the binaries are downloaded. Here, the progress. Okay, 1 minute. You also?
It's not relevant.
Okay. Okay. For these things, yeah, these things you can. I also got that. Yeah, you can ignore. Yeah, so this is the issue. Yeah. So here, what you have to do is, okay, your program have a bug. So you have to remove that program. That this is what. are not getting anything over there. That's the problem. How it will work. So everyone, if the progress is done, you move on and go to the project to base directory and run SBT console to make sure that that's fine. As long as you define your object. Okay, so everyone, make sure I'll give you 3 to 5 minutes time. You can go to the base directory and launch the SBT console and make sure that there are no errors. If there are any errors because of the existing programs, try to fix the errors in the program. If you could not, let me know. I will make sure some temporary workaround for those programs, and you are able to launch the SBT console successfully. It is very important to do that. That way, you can actually develop your programs in interactive fashion.
When we launch the console, can't we get that SparkContext? We have to create manually.
Yeah, we have to get manually. It will not get the SparkContext.
If the one is partial, we can get it.
Yeah, without the partial, you get it. Because it has used time and the cycle type was unique. And this is another one. That's not like this is another form. The both of them are together to do this. So that is this. You want to not try to control everything in this file. On the first time it will, from next time it will only control the data. Because it is failing for it, probably it will be trying to control everything. Okay, everyone launch the SBT console. So I will give a couple of more minutes to you. And you have to set up SBT, you have to download and set up SBT. Okay, just once you have proof install SBT. Okay, anyone online having any issues? So Shravani is asking questions. Once the dependencies are added in build.sbt, I should refresh project to be able to recognize Spark commands. That is correct, but when you create the project, new project, and click on next, here if you enable use auto import, it will be imported automatically. Okay, if you don't enable use auto import on the in build.sbt on the library dependencies, you will see this bulb icon. You have to expand this and you will see refresh project option over there. And then run. I don't know where you are getting this error. You have to show me the code, what you are trying to run. That's what you have to paste your code, whatever you are trying to run. Is SBT console failing like this, or when it is failing? Okay, don't use SBT run. I haven't covered till that point, and we didn't write the program yet. Okay, what I have, the command I have run is SBT console, and still we are in the beginning only. We just try to read the data. We haven't completed the program, and we haven't validated it yet. Okay, once you have SBT console running, you can generate some test data. So I will give the same text which I am using, so that you create a file locally. Okay.
When I run the test file,
1 minute, 1 minute. So you can create a file locally with this text, with whatever name you want, and then write these lines of code. Okay, I'm pasting history here. So just focus on these 5 lines. The path, make sure you use your path. Okay, write these 5 lines of code. I will also copy paste. You just make the modifications and write it. Okay, so make sure your SBT console is launching properly. That's the most important thing. And don't run your program completely. Don't use any other command which I haven't covered yet.
when I run through the SBT console, I'm getting the response from the prompt and the first line. When I run on the ID, the same program, I don't see the prompt.
Yeah, you have to print that.
Or
Yeah, that is the behavior of the referral which is going to the result. Better to use internet. Otherwise, it gets up with some loss line. Okay. So can you help him? So he will help him. He will help you.
the program technical part.
No. So that is the behavior of IntelliJ. If there in your project, if there are some compilation errors, it will not run your program.
Their program also is not run. So because it is having a separate name.
No, but to run this, it has to make sure that there are no compilation errors in your module. So you have to fix those things. And also there are errors in your. So for those who are using Windows, there could be some exception with respect to WinUtils. If you run into that issue with respect to WinUtils, let us know. We'll fix the issue. Okay. Your project is not important. So the dependencies on market download. You can confirm that by expanding it. You will not find the corporate. Now we can actually import it. Okay. Once it is imported, this program will. So there are so many syntax errors. Now this is Scala program and got Scala. Yes, there are some syntax errors. What I will recommend is for now. Now let's track me not the programming for the exercise is how to create function. You have to be careful with that. If I'm successfully,
The path is same path. The same path.
you
Say capital, capital C.
no, Scala primitive it could be developed primitives. Column. Where the exception has started. Yeah, variables. So, okay. So, wait a minute, okay. Custom is. So, for some of you guys, you might have get an exception called related to win utils. So, Abhishek will show you how to fix that issue. Okay, so if any one of you get the win utils issue, just focus on this and make sure the issue is fixed. So now Gautam have become presenter. He will share the screen. And whether you use SBT console or IntelliJ to run the program like this, sometimes it will complain on winutils.exe. Only on Windows this issue will come. It is due to some dependency with respect to Windows for HDFS APIs, HDFS related jar files. Because Spark uses HDFS, we have to make sure that the HDFS works on Windows. HDFS jars work on Windows. Yeah. So paste the link in the chat. So he's providing the link. Abhishek is providing the link in the chat, and then he will work on Ganesh's PC to fix this issue. So first you have to go to the link which he provided in the chat. Then download the zip. Let me provide in the YouTube live also. So provide this URL, GitHub URL. So you can directly use this GitHub URL rather than going to source codes and then come to this. Okay. Yeah. Set up for him. I think you haven't downloaded. Okay, it should be in downloads. Yeah, this is the second one. Hadoop common 220 bin master.zip. So right click on that and go to that directory. Yeah, that is the one. So once you download it, you can copy to some location wherever you want. Have you unzipped it? Okay. So once you unzip it, you have to update the environment variable, right? Oh, in the command prompt, you can take it. Okay. And yeah, so you have to give the appropriate path for your utils. So what is the path in your case? No, yeah, paste the exact path for which is working for him. So test it out. Yeah, paste that in the chat. Do we need to put up to bin? Yeah. Okay. So this is how it will look like. System.set property, and you have to set Hadoop home directory, and you have to give that location where you have the winutils.exe. Okay, now run your program. Run the program. it runs. Oh, still there is some. This time it says input path. So this time you have to fix the input path. So that winutils.exe issue is resolved. Now it is some other issue where he is passing incorrect input path. So he just have to fix it.
Word or word?
Yeah. So this is the URL from where you can download the Hadoop common binaries, and this is the system.set property which you need to update as part of your program. Okay, and then you will be able to access it without any issues. Okay, we'll take 5 minutes break, and then we'll catch up at 12:10. For lunch, we'll break at 1:30. So if those whoever is on WebEx, if you guys have any issues, let me know. I will fix those issues before we proceed further. That doesn't matter. It's better to have the latest version, but even the earlier version also should be fine. It is not required to have. Okay, is it failing for him?
It's not giving that error, but still it's showing fine. I'm trying to replicate in SDB.
Okay, let me. Actually, Jajati is saying that we might have to have Hadoop related to this 2.0. Let me test it out. Which version you have?
I have 2.0. I'm trying to replicate in SDB.
It's the problem. So file extension is the problem. We have the extension is begun. So just remove the .txt and it will work. Okay, so it doesn't matter, Jajati. What have happened is his extensions are hidden. So he has given double.txt. Uh, it has got double.txt in the original file name, and he is only using one.txt while processing the data. Okay, so let us proceed further. I am changing myself as presenter. So now it is working for him. I hope everyone is able to come till this point so that we can proceed further, because this is the more important stuff. After that, even if we accelerate and even if we go at a faster pace, that is fine. But these are the foundation, and we have to take care of these things. So is it working on IntelliJ? That means the dependencies, there is some issue with the dependencies. Okay, so let us proceed further. For another guy also, it's failing for some reason. I will troubleshoot him offline. It's on Mac. Okay, so you can copy these things, make the necessary changes to the path, and start using this console before you actually update the program. Okay, because context is already started with compiling, that is fine. And lines dot count. Okay, so what is happening is when we say val lines equal to sc dot text file, it is creating something called RDD. Now let us understand what is that RDD is. RDD stands for resilient distributed datasets. Okay, so as the name suggests, it's a data set, which means a collection. And then distributed. What does the distributed means? So here we are only testing on a small file. If we try to test it on a longer file, and if we try to process the data, what it will do is, from the file system, it will actually copy the data into the memory in the distributed fashion, and then it will try to process the data further. So that's why it is called as distributed. So depending upon the size of the file, it will distribute the contents of the file into multiple nodes, and it will copy into the memory of those multiple nodes. Okay, that's why it is called as distributed. And also one more thing you need to understand is it's an in memory. When it distribute on multiple nodes in the cluster, it will actually distribute in memory. Okay, and what is resilient? Resilient means even if one of the node goes down while the data is being processed, whatever data is copied onto that node will be failed over to some other node. So the processing will fail over to some other node. So it know which part of data is being processed or has to be processed on the node which got down. So as the processing fail over to the other node, even the data, it will be copied from the file system, whatever missing data because of the node going down, whatever is the missing data, it will try to copy that data into the memory of the other node which will process the data further. Okay, so that's why it is called as resilient. So resilient distributed dataset is nothing but a in-memory distributed collection which will be used while processing the data. And resilient means even if one of the node goes down, which is supposed to process a particular chunk of data, the processing as well as that chunk of the data will be recovered on the some other node, and then data will be reprocessed again. So that is why it is called as resilient. So here, to understand it further, you need to understand the architecture of our cluster and where this RDDs will be created and how the processing will be done. So for now, I will just focus on the RDD part. When we actually try to execute the program later, we'll see everything in detail. Okay. Now I am going to Ambari. So this is the URL for Ambari. If you have lab access, you just go to gw01.itversity.com/8080, or you can also go to the Big Data Labs, labs.itversity.com, and then log in. Once you log in, under the quick links, you will see a link called Ambari. You can click on this also. Okay, once you click on this, it will take you to this Ambari. You just have to give the username, which is this one, and then copy password and paste it here. So unlike console, here you can use Control V, or you can use Shift Insert also on Windows laptop. On Mac and all, you just have to use Command V to paste. In Linux based systems, you have to use Shift Insert. So now this is Ambari. So there is something called Spark History Server which is down. Let me start it. Okay, for this I need to log in as admin. So I'm logging in as admin. You will have only read-only permission on this. You will not be able to manage the cluster because some component of Spark is down. I'm logging in as admin, and here I need to start this one. No, we haven't done anything on this. I don't know. I don't know. I have to troubleshoot. I have to get into the logs and see where it is going wrong. Anyway, it is not a showstopper for now. Okay. Now, if you see, this is our cluster management tool called Ambari. And if you want to get the details of the hosts, there are 7 nodes in the cluster. And out of these 7 nodes, 3 are designated as worker nodes. That's why I named them as WN, which stands for worker node. You can name it anyway, but in my case, I just named it as WN to make sure that you consider you interpret them as worker nodes when you log in. And then we have GW01, which is a gateway node. That is the one to which we are all connecting to. And then 3 masters. These are worker nodes. This is gateway node. And these 3 are masters. NN01, NN02, RM01. Okay. So here we are talking about how the data will be distributed. So when the program is run, okay, the data will be distributed onto the worker nodes. Okay. And here Spark is integrated with Yarn. Okay. There are multiple execution modes with respect to Spark. It could be Mesos or it could be Yarn. These are the 2 things which we use in production. If it is Mesos, it will be a little bit different. In this case, we have Hadoop plus Spark in the same cluster. And as Hadoop and Spark are integrated, Spark will be running under a execution framework called Yarn. Okay. So if you look at the architecture of Yarn, you can click on the service to understand the architecture of Yarn. It has a master process called resource manager and a slave process called node manager. Okay, forget about resource manager for now and click on node managers. It will filter out from the host wherever that node manager is running. If you see, the 3 node managers are running on W101, W102, W103 respectively. Okay, so this is where the processing happens. And wherever processing happens, the corresponding data will be copied into that node in the form of RDD. Okay, this is where RDD will come into. Okay, and what is RDD? RDD stands for Resilient Distributed Dataset. If I have to define that, it's nothing but a in-memory distributed collection. That's it. Where failover, fault tolerance are inbuilt. That's why it is called as resilient. Okay, so this sc.txt file will, when the action is invoked, because of the sc.txt file, the data which is there in the file system will be copied as RDD. Only when the execution starts with the invocation of action. Until then, it will only generate the DAG. Okay, now we have the lines which is of type RDD. Okay, so this is our source data which is copied in memory. Now we have to process this data. So let us define the problem statement. Here we are trying to develop the program for word count. What is word count? You have bunch of data, and in that data, you want to consider each word separated by space as a word, and for all unique words, you want to see how many times it is repeated. That is the definition of word count. Get the count of each word in the file. Okay. So here, for that, we need to start exploring something called Spark APIs. Okay. So I'm going to the Spark official documentation. Spark programming guide. And here you should search for 1.6.2 because that is what we are looking into. Especially if you get into 1.2 or 2.1, those 2 are significantly different from 1.6.2, and you can end up in confusion. So try to use the closest version of the actual version which you are trying to use for the development. So if you go to the documentation have the overview. So overview will tell how to set up the environment locally to your machine, and what are the different execution modes and all those things. And then programming guides is the main documentation. Out of them, quick start will cover how to just get started by writing word count program or something like that. And then you have the main documentation called Spark Programming Guide. And Spark Programming Guide is the foundation for the entire Spark. And then there are different modules within the Spark, such as Spark Streaming, Data Frames, MLlib, GraphX, Bagel, SparkR, etc. For each of them, you just have to go to the appropriate documentation and use it while developing your programs. And then once you have Spark Programming Guide, by default, all the examples will be shown in Scala. Okay. So the way, sorry. the way they have designed the documentation is all the common theory. For example, let's say you start here. Overview is common to all the programming languages it support. Okay, so they just give the text. And then linking with Spark is specific to programming language. In Scala, you link in a one manner. In Java, you link in different manner. In Python, you will link in different manner. So wherever there has to be a differentiator, they created these frames, providing the choice of programming language. Once you choose the programming language, wherever this differentiator is there, automatically it will pick the same programming language. For example, in this case, if I choose Python, wherever the programming examples have to be given, everywhere it has changed to Python. And if you say Scala, everywhere it will change to Scala. Okay. So this is the documentation, and out of this documentation, the most important part is this thing: transformations and actions. If you know these transformations and actions, well, you are 70% done with Spark. Only these things. Okay, but from the programming, from the developing of the entire application perspective, Spark is probably 20–30%. Okay, what is the major portion of it? It's the programming language, underlying programming language, best practices, versioning the code, deploying the code. All these things constitute the rest of the stuff. Spark knowledge is only 20% if you want to develop the overall application. Programming language is the main thing. Probably programming language is like 40–50%, and rest of the world is the rest of the stuff. Okay, so that's why I started with Scala, which is the programming language, and I covered only with respect to Spark. Whatever I have covered probably is 30% or 40% of Scala. Okay, but with Spark, that is more than enough to get started. And it lays foundation. As you start developing the applications, you have to build on top of what you learned yesterday and what you will be learning today and tomorrow. But when it comes to APIs, they are pretty straightforward. They are not too many APIs. But around that, if you have to build any intelligence, you have to use your programming language knowledge. Okay. So here, why they name them as transformations and actions? So as I have mentioned to you earlier, Spark follows lazy evaluation. Okay, only when it sees action, it will start executing something called DAG. Until the action is invoked, it will create DAG. Once the action is invoked, it will execute the DAG. And each execution of DAG is considered to be one job, one Spark job. So if you have multiple actions in your program, you will see multiple jobs, Spark jobs. Okay. So anyway, action is the one which will invoke the program, and these are actions. Already we have seen count to get the number of rows or number of records. It is an action. That's why you see the execution immediately and you see the results. First is another action which will return the first record. Take of n. So if you just want to get n number of records, you can say take, and you have to pass the number, and it will get you as many number of records as you want. And we will be using take quite extensively. And then collect is another action which will convert your RDD into an array, and whatever operations you can do on array, you can do that. So if you want to print all the elements in that RDD, first you have to use collect to convert into an array, and then you have to iterate through it by using a function called for each, and you can print. Okay, so collect is to convert RDD into an array, and you have to use collect with caution, especially with certifications as part of your programs. Never use collect, because RDD is a distributed collection. It can be of multiple gigabytes, and collect will be a single threaded array. So wherever you are trying to run the program, in that location it will fetch all the entire RDD and convert into an array, and then it will try to do further processing. So it will start running out of memory issues, and for one of the guys, it costed his certification exam. Okay, so be very careful while collect, not only in the certification, but also as part of your project. You don't need to use collect. For preview on smaller data sets, probably you can, but you should not use collect very frequently, especially if you want to get the raw data and if you have to do something on top of it. You have to use RDD APIs. Once you do the processing and once your data come to controllable size, then you can use collect and do if you want. Okay, but the usage of collect is not that much. To preview the data, always use take or first. First will give the first record. Take of 10 will give the first 10 records. Okay, so these are actions. We will see more actions later. As of now, we understand what is collect, what is count, what is first. We have invoked first and count also. We have seen take, and we will see few others as we proceed. And then now go to the transformation. So now before getting in, so what is transformations? It's nothing but transforming your data. If you guys are familiar with data warehousing or data processing earlier, what are the typical type of transformations we will do? Yeah, joins is one answer. Lookup and join are similar. Yeah, joins is one answer. What else? Anyone from online? What are the typical transformations on the data sets which we do, especially while doing the batch processing? So joins is one answer. Router, okay. So this is very niche to some of the underlying ETL tools. Router is not available here. There are much more simpler and frequently used transformations. Filter is another answer. Data cleansing, yeah. For data cleansing, we use filter. Okay. So if you think from the generic terminology, data cleansing is the one which we will do, and we do aggregations such as sum, min, max, average, standard deviation, variance. All these are aggregations. And join is again more technical, but if you think in general terms, cleansing the data, aggregating the data, standardizing the data. What is standardizing the data? Let's say you have phone number, which is stored in multiple sources using different formats. When we store the phone number in the analytics systems, in the downstream applications, we should standardize to one format so that we can run analytics on top of it. Okay, so that is called as standardization. So standardization, cleansing, aggregations, and building the graphs, those things. So if you have to do these things on multiple data sets, you have to perform joins and all those things internally. So here, for the cleansing of the data, we can use filter. And we have seen the filter example on the list yesterday. Okay, so these APIs are available. Some of these APIs are available on even traditional collections in Scala. When you apply these things on RDD, it will run in distributed mode. When you apply these common functions on lists, it will run in Scala typical mode. Okay, to filter the data, we use filter. But if you understand our requirement or our problem statement to get the word count, we have to parse each and every record or each and every line by using space as the delimiter. And then we have to do the count of each of those things. Okay, so now let me show here. So lines dot first. So lines is nothing but RDD, which is nothing but a collection. And each element of collection is of type string. And this is due to we are using text file. If you use some other format like sequence file, the type of the element could be different. Okay. So here the type of each element is string. And we can say lines collect to display all the elements. So lines collect will actually convert into an array. For each is a operator where you can iterate through each element and you can do some processing on top of it. Traditionally, this is how we develop for L lines dot collect. Okay, how to put it in bracket. If you want to use Scala, And if you want to write it in traditional approach, this is how you run your program. So first I'm writing the for loop and iterating through the elements and then printing the each of the element. But this is not the way you should develop using functional programming languages like Scala. Rather than using that one, what you can do, lines dot collect, which will convert the RDD lines into an array, and then there is a for each operator. For each and every record, you can uh, uh, you can pass it as parameter, and you can do whatever you want. You can either say rec is the variable name, and this is called as anonymous function where we don't need to give the name, and we can actually start the curly braces, and we can have as much complex logic as we want. Okay, but in this case, I am not using curly braces because it's single line. Let's say I want to print ln each of this element. I can do this, and this is how you will get the data. And on top of it, even this one is not optional, is not mandatory. You can say like this. If you want to do some complex processing, you can pass it as parameter and you can do whatever you want. If you just want to print, you can just print like this. Okay. So this is how you should write. You should not write the traditional for loops and all. There is a for each operator, which is or for each API on collection, uh, such as array and all. Collect will actually return an array. So if I say lines.collect, hit enter, you see it is nothing but array. Okay, so we are iterating through the array and we are actually printing by using for each println. Okay, so now if I say lines dot first, I will get only the first element, which is of type string. Now let us take this. Okay, and I am creating a string called s. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to pass this using space as delimiter. Okay, string s is of type string. So there is a method called split. It's similar to Java split, and here you can give the delimiter space. So what this split will return? It will return an array. Okay, and then you can do whatever you want on top of this array. So if we do the split, uh, now we will try to use the split um, uh, uh, split as part of a Spark-based API to split each line. Okay, so lines is our RDD of type string, and each element will have one line in it. And then here we have to decide which transformation we should use. Okay, so what is the requirement is, so the way we should visualize the program is, first we have to generate, first we have to delimit using the delimiter, which is space in this case, and we have to flatten out the each of the words, and then we have to tag with some unique value, some constant value like 1, and eventually we have to add those ones to get the count. So here, if I have to write the program pseudocode, so I have that line, right? So in this case, what it will do is, first we have to flatten this out like this. Using space as delimiter. Okay, once you get this, then we have to count each word as 1. Okay, for that we have to say something like this: in comma 1, place comma 1. Okay, And then what I have to do, I have to group by each of these keys and count these ones. Then I will get the count. Okay. So first, what we have to do, we have to apply the delimiter as space and break each line into bunch of records which will have one single word in it. So for that, so here what we are trying to do, we are passing one line as input in each iteration, and we have to get a bunch of records as output. Okay. So for that scenario where one record is passed as input and bunch of array will become output, and that array has to be flattened, we have to use this API called flatMap. FlatMap is the special API for each input record. It will generate one or more output records. Map is the API where for each input record, exactly one output record will be generated. And typically that output record has to be transformed. Okay. So in this case, we have to use flatMap. So let us develop using flatMap here. So I hope everyone have already created the lines by now and validated it. Now, if you see, we will create one more variable, lines flattened equal to lines dot flat map. Okay, and here again we will be using anonymous function rect imply. Okay, and rect dot split space because the delimiter is space, and you can hit enter. Now the RDD is generated, and you can say lines flattened dot collect. In this case, I am just using collect so that you understand what is going on. You can see each of the word in a separate record. And if you want to see the data type, you can check it. Lines flattened is also of type RDD, and each element in RDD is of type string. And if you do the count, lines.count is 9. Lines flattened.count is all the individual words in that. So even though lines and lines flattened are RDD of type string, lines have in each individual line as element, whereas lines flattened have each individual word as element. Okay, so this is the logic which you need to write to flatten out each and every line by delimiting. After delimiting by space into individual records, you have to use flatMap. Okay, make sure you develop this one, and then we will proceed further. And if you have any questions at any point in time, just let me know. One minute. So there is a parameter to suppress this logs also. I will share that information later. Otherwise, it will just be irritating. Okay, try to run all those commands: lines.count, lines flatten.count, lines.collect, dot for each of println, lines flatten. So you will see the how the data is being generated, how the data is represented in each of those RDD. This is very, very important until you get familiar with all these things. And also watch this one. what is the data type of, this is the actual data type, map partitions RDD, and it is being assigned to RDD of string. And there are different types of RDD, paired RDD, etc. We will see those things later. Okay, everyone is done with this flat map logic. So once the records are flattened, okay, what we'll do is we will create a new variable called lines map, because if you look at this output, right, now our output look like this, and we want to transform into this. So for each input record, I have to generate one transformed output record, and the transformed output record should have one tag to each of those words. So in this case, to represent this, we use the tuple as the data structure, because we are pairing a string and a number, and we will be creating, we'll be using tuple as data structure. So for each input of type string, we have to create a tuple of type string and int. Okay, that should be the functionality of our map function. So in this case, lines flattened dot map. So here the requirement is simple. For each input record, we have to get exactly one output record. Okay, and then we can give whatever name we want to the parameter. In this case, rec, and we want to create a tuple, right? So that's why I'm using circular brackets. And the first element is rec itself. We are not doing any fancy transformation. If you want to just remove the commas and all those things, you can do as part of this map. Okay, for example, let's say rec dot. Okay, let us see this. First, let us do this rec of 1. Okay, and now you can see RDD is of type string and integer. Okay, there are some commas. I want to just remove those commas. Okay, so for that, what we can do, we will create a string called s, which have comma in them, string, comma, and we want to remove that comma and consider the value without comma as a word. Okay, so how we can do, we just have to type s dot s is of type string and hit tab, and it will show all the available functions. So there is a function called replace. Probably that could be the solution. So let's try it. Replace, and I want to replace comma with empty string and hit enter. Now the comma is replaced. Trim is primarily to trim out the spaces. We can use, I don't know whether trim takes the second argument. You have to explore. You can use trim also.
Space before the word and after.
Yeah, trim is primarily to take care of the spaces. But in PL SQL, you can actually say which string to be trimmed. It can be space, it can be comma, it can be anything. Okay. Anyway, you can. There will be multiple solutions for each and every problem. You just have to explore and figure it out. Okay. Now, in this case, let us replace the comma with empty string. That way, all the commas will be removed, and then it will tag 1 to each of the words and hit enter. Okay, and then if you say lines map dot select dot for each println, now you can see all the commas are removed. There is a bracket for one of that. If you want to clean up all those things, you can do. If you want to make them case insensitive, you can do that also using several string based functions. Okay, so the way you should program it is first try to generate with, because it's an interactive thing, right? So first try to generate with simple words and try to identify the functionality and try to integrate with the Spark API. Okay, so this is the one which will actually remove the commas with empty string, and consider it as, and then it is tagging one and creating the tuple out of it. Okay. Now, if I say lines map.count, it will return exactly 19, whatever the number of words, or 119, whatever the number of words we have in lines flattened. Lines map also will have the same number of rows. So map will never filter or add new records. Okay, so it will exactly match whatever the size of the input RDD by number, the output, the size of output RDD also will be same when it comes to map. When it comes to flat map, typically it will be higher. When it comes to filter, typically it will be lower. Unless if everything passes through, it, filter will get lower. So if we have to filter out the data, we have to use filter transformation. So in this case, we are not filtering anything. So we will run linesmap.count and it is also retrieving 190. Okay, so far we have read the data. I'm recollecting what we have done so far. First, we have read the data using fc.text file. Then I have ran flatMap. And then we have ran the map on the flattened, lines flattened, which is the output of the flat map. Now, using these tuples, we have to group by key and add these ones for each key. Okay. So for that, so to typically add the values, there are multiple methods, and you need to understand first whether we want to do by key or not. Okay. In this case, we have to use by key. So there are multiple transformations to take care of by key transformation, by key aggregations, group by key, reduce by key, aggregate by key. If you want to get globally, so if you have a collection and if you convert into an RDD, and if you want to get some globally, then you can use reduce function to get the sum. The way we have seen with the list yesterday, we created a list of 5 records, and then we extracted the subtotal of order item, and we added those things. So what function we have used? We have used the reduce. There we are trying to get the sum of all the revenue generated by each and every order item. In this case, it's the example for by key, because for each word, whenever your requirement say for each or for key or per key, per or for. Okay, in those scenarios, you have to use by key transformations. So there are 3 by key transformations. Actually, there are 4 by key transformations: group by key, reduce by key, aggregate by key, and sort by key. As the name suggests, sort by key is primarily to sort the data. It is not for the aggregation. For aggregation purpose, either you can use group by key, or reduce by key, or aggregate by key. Okay. So here, to understand the difference between group by key and rest of the two, which is reduce by key and aggregate by key, you need to understand the concept of combiner. Okay. Then only you will see the significance why to use reduce by key and aggregate by key. Okay. So then I will talk about combiner a little bit later. For now, just understand that the difference between group by key and these two transformations is combiner. Okay. And when combiner is included, the combiner and the final reduce logic might be same or might be different. When it is same, Okay, so this is reduced by key, and so the difference between group by key and reduced by key and aggregate by key is primarily combiner. Okay, so when it comes to combiner, the logic of combiner can be same as reducer logic or different from reducer logic. So if it is same, we use reduced by key. If it is different, we use aggregate by key. Okay, so I will explain that a little bit later, but for now we will use reduced by key, and we will try to write the program further. Okay, so yesterday I have explained about how the reduce function will work. So let's create a list val l equal to 1 to 100 to list. So one is so L is nothing but list, and let us try to add all the values. Okay, typically in conventional programming, we write like this. First, we will create a global variable total initializing to 0, and then we will develop like this. This is the valid Scala for loop. L is the list, and E is of type integer. So, okay, and then you can say total plus equal to E, right? And then if you say total, it will give the total of all the 1 to 100 numbers, which is 5050. Now, if we if you want to run or if you want to develop using Scala functional paradigm rather than iterating through elements like this, we have to we can write like this: L dot. Okay, either you can use reduce. So this reduce is Scala based API on list, or you can use fold. You can use either of them. Both are synonyms to each other, as per my understanding. So let's use reduce, because in Spark we use concept of API called reduce. Okay, and then we have to give the tuple, and the tuple will have the total and E for element, each element. Okay, and then implies total plus P. Okay, so what will happen in each iteration? This E will be added to the total. So in the first iteration, total will be 0 like this. Or let me use a different variable. In the first iteration, tot will be 0. Means it will be initialized 0. After first iteration, 0 plus 1, tot will become 1. And after second iteration, tot will become 3. After third iteration, tot will become 6. So each element will be added to this. And finally, this whatever output will be returned. Okay, I think you can try this also. Just to understand how the total will change, probably you will be able to do this. See here. Okay, this is the tot after each iteration. Okay, so here for reduce by key, once the lines map have the tuples, we can say lines val word count equal to lines map dot reduce by key underscore plus underscore. This is one notation where you can add each of these elements, or you can actually create the tuple the way which we have done earlier, dot comma e and implies dot plus e. Both are same. Either you can use underscore plus underscore. Underscore notation will work only in some scenarios. Better to use names in all the scenarios unless you are very comfortable with the underscore notation. And now this word count will have the word count, and you can say word count dot take of 10, or you can actually collect dot println. Sorry, for each println. Okay, and what is that? I didn't get you. What is that? Oh, this one. This one I just showed on the regular API, regular collection API. So let me see lines map dot count 119, and then word count lines map dot reduce by key. Okay, word count dot collect dot for each println. Why is it not working? Okay, so there is some issue with this. Lines map dot count. So lines map is let me use underscore plus underscore. Okay, I think there is some issue. I'm just quitting it, launching it again. Sometimes it will work. Okay, so I'm picking the code from the chart. Okay, val lines pattern equal to lines dot flatMap. val lines map equal to rect dot replace val word count equal to lines map dot reduce by key wc dot count. Yeah, now it is working. So I don't know why. Probably some. I think because the session is there for a very long time, it might have messed it up. Okay, so you can say wc dot collect dot for each println, and we can see the count. Okay, so this is how you can develop the word count program. So I am typing history, and this is the code which is tested, so we can actually integrate as part of our Scala based program in IntelliJ, build the jar file, and we can also run it on the cluster. Okay, so I am copying this one. I'm going to wordcount.scala. In this, I just have to add these things because the rest of the stuff is already there. So we might have to stop at 1:30 because my wife is feeling very bad. So we'll catch up tomorrow. So whatever we miss, I will try to conduct over next weekend. Okay, yeah. Through online. Okay, so we'll continue. Means you can stay for tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow's session, but whatever is left over, we'll try to catch up over next weekend. Doctor is saying to admit in the hospital. I want to take to different hospital. My parents are uneducated. They don't know how to deal with all these guys. Okay, so anyway, I will finish this. By 1:30, we'll be able to wrap up, and then we'll catch up tomorrow. Kids are normal now, but my wife is struggling quite a bit for the past 2 days. Vomitings and motions. Okay, anyway, so here we will say WC collect for each println. So now when you actually develop the program, you can test it and it will work. But you should not hard code the input path like this. And also when you run on the cluster, you might want to run in a different mode on the cluster, like Yarn or Mesos. It is not good practice to run a local on cluster, and it's not good practice to hard code that. Okay. For that, there is something called typesafe config package. Okay, some things we might have to pass as argument. For example, input path can be passed as argument, output path can be passed as argument. And few things we have to externalize. That's the best practice of the development lifecycle. What you typically externalize, the JDBC hostname, if you want to connect to the database, JDBC hostname, port number, credentials, all these things should be externalized. And the input path, output path, either you can externalize or you can pass them as arguments. So in this case, we'll try to pass this input path as argument, and we'll pass this as externalized parameter. Okay. So for that, you see resources here. Okay. In this, we can create a file, and that file we will name it as application.properties. Why we are naming it as application.properties, I will explain in a moment. Once you have the application.properties, as part of the build.sbt, first we need to add a third-party dependency. If you want, you can actually write a complete program, but for almost all the programming languages, there are APIs to load these properties files. With respect to Scala, one of the API which will serve the purpose is type-safe config. Okay, and this is with respect to Scala, nothing to do with Spark. Okay, so here you can say Scala type-safe config, and it is actually common package for almost all the JVM-based programming languages like Java, Scala, JRuby, many other things. And if you scroll down, they actually provide the library dependency. Okay, so you just have to copy this one and paste it and save it. Once you save, if you have to refresh, make sure you refresh. You should immediately see this progress bar. If the progress bar is not visible, then you have to refresh manually. Okay, it will not take very long time. You can just refresh it. Sorry, you can just paste it and refresh it, and it will provide bunch of APIs to you. And why we are naming it as application.properties? If you go to the documentation, the standard behavior of this package is to load these files with simple method called config_factory.load. This is the simplest way of using this. There could be multiple ways, and I don't want to get into too many complexities here. Just understand that we have to externalize few things, we have to pass few things as arguments, and this is the package which we can start with, and we can build on top of it. Okay, so here, if you use the names such as application.json, application.conf, application.properties, and reference.conf, it will automatically load the file. You don't need to give the path and all those things. If you just say config_factory.load, it has the intelligence where it will look for application.properties or any other file name which are part of those file names, application.properties, application.conf, application.json, and resource.properties. If the file name matches any of those things, it will automatically load that file, and it will provide you the properties defined in that file at runtime to your program. Okay, now I am going into application properties, application.properties, and here I am creating two properties, dev.execution mode equal to local. So when we actually run it on our machine, we want to run it in local mode, and prod is our lab, execution mode equal to yarn. For yarn, you have to specify yarn client. Okay, so what is this yarn client and all I will cover later, but for now just make sure you create the application properties under resources with these two entries. Before adding this, you have to have the library dependencies defined, pointing to com.typesafe config 1.3.1. Okay, so I will give time later. Let me proceed further and finish it off. Now you go to the program, and I want to, so why we are giving dev dot and prod dot? we want to pass the execution mode at runtime as an argument. Okay, so let's say the first parameter is execution mode. Okay, means whether we are running in dev or prod. I'm creating a variable val environment, execution environment. Equal to args of 0. Okay, so the first argument will be execution environment. Using that, we have to read the properties file and get the appropriate property which will retrieve the execution mode, and we have to use it as part of this function, set master. So for that, first what we have to do is we have to create some variable and naming it as properties, and then config factory, which is from cop.typesafe.config. It will be visible only if your dependencies are resolved. Okay, I haven't imported imported automatically, it will be done. And then there is a method called load. Okay, I think okay, let us do this. I thought will be added automatically. Let me do. Okay, I know why it did not use. I'm trying it again. Config factory. So we have to select that. When you select that, it will automatically import. If you don't select and type, it will not import automatically. So here I have selected that and hit enter, and it imported that com.typesafe. And then you can say load, and you don't need to pass any parameter. Okay, now the props have all the properties which are defined as part of the application.properties file. Okay, so now we have to use these props to fetch execution mode. So props dot get config. Why get config? Because we have category. So the way it will work is in the application.properties, we will give all dev related properties starting with dev dot, all prod related properties starting with prod dot. Okay, so if you want to access the sub properties of dev, we have to first access get config by passing dev to it, and then all these sub properties will be available as key value pairs for you. Okay, so here what you have to do, props dot get config. Okay, and we have to pass this argument. So execution environment has to be parameter for this, and then we have to say get string. Okay, and what we are trying to get, execution mode. So it has to match to this. Okay, so I will explain again. Please listen. Okay, so instead of hard coding local or yarn client, we are trying to derive from the execution environment. Execution environment will be passed as parameter. It could be dev or prod in our case. So props dot get config of, so this will resolve into props dot get config of dev. So what it will return? It will return a collection of key value pair or maps, a collection of map, or it will return a map. Map is nothing but collection of elements which are key value pairs. What will have? It will have this as key and this as value. Okay, when the when the get config execution environment is passed as dev, it will fetch this as key and this as value. When it is passed as prod, it will fetch this as key and this as value. And there can be a number of properties under dev category and the prod category. And then we are actually looking into that map and extracting the value for the execution mode. With dev, it will return local. With prod, it will return on-site. Okay, so that is the overall logic of this. So in this case, if the execution environment is dev, it will resolve into dev.execution mode, and it will return local. If the execution environment is prod, it will resolve into prod.execution mode, and it will return YAML client. Yeah, you can have a number of it. Yeah, you have to pass the key to get the value. So that's what this is, the connector config factory.load. So what config factory.load will do is it will look into this location resources. Okay, and if the file in this location matches with one of these names, application.conf, application.json, application.properties, or reference conf, the program is smart enough to load that file automatically and get all the properties as a collection. If you get the data type of it, let us get the data type of this. If you want to add type annotation, you just have to define it. It is of type config. Config is nothing but key value map of key value pairs. Okay. So then properties will have all the properties. So out of that properties, we are now fetching by category by saying get config dev or prod, and then from that we can fetch whatever property we want by passing the key. Yes. Yes. There, so, and that if you follow this design, that property file has to have all the dev properties, UAT properties, and production properties. That is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you have a separate config file which is out of your jar file completely, and your program should be able to run that property file. If it is run, you don't need to pass this environment, whether it is dev or prod. Automatically, your program should be configured to read that file directly and get the respective environment properties. That is another way of designing it. So that the drawback of with this design is you have to pass the properties file also part of jar file, and you have to include dev, UAT, production, everything in one properties file. Okay, it's up to you how you want to design. Probably the same package might have features to read the files from the common location in different environments, but I haven't explored that. As long as you understand that we need to externalize certain properties and you know some of the packages, you can dig it from there. Okay, is it clear, Gautam? Because you are not from developer background, right? So you have to be a little bit. Okay, so now we want to pass the input path as argument 2. Okay, so here I'm just saying args of 1. That will be our input path. And also instead of printing like this, I want to save it into a file. Okay, so WC. So .text file is to read the text data. Save as text file is to write the text data into the file system. And here we can give the output path. And the output path, I will be passing it as third parameter. Okay, and then we can run this. So because we are now passing the argument, you cannot just directly right click and run word count. Okay, what you have to do, you have to go to run, go to edit configurations. Okay, so as we are in the program, it automatically fetches this word count. Otherwise, you have to add to the application. Okay, by clicking plus application, you have to give the all the details. Okay, here we already have, so I'm deleting this unnamed and going to word count. Here we have to pass 3 arguments. So in this case, I'm running locally, so I'm running it as dev as the first parameter, and then the input path. The input path is this one. All the parameters has all the arguments has to be space separated, and the output path I'm giving this one slash word count. The default functionality is you should give a directory which does not exist, and then it will create that directory and it will copy the data to that. Okay, and then click on OK, and then you can say run word count.
You can pass these parameters in the application input.
You can pass. You can pass.
Is it that way of
Yeah, it's all about how you want to design. Sometimes you might want to write into multiple output paths. You cannot just add on arguments. So you have to define the properties and get the properties. Now that the program is run, and here you can see the directory word count is created, and then cat on this path file, and you can see the count. Okay, how the data is copied? Whatever tuple is generated as output. So here, if you go back to this, okay, when we run this program, WC is nothing but RDD of type tuple, and and the tuple have 2 elements in it. One is of type string, and the other one is of type integer. So the toString functionality of tuple is just put them in circular brackets and add the values in comma separated. That's why when we say sc.text file, data is written like this. Okay, but in whether it is in projects in the or in the certifications, they might ask you to use a delimiter while writing the data. You should not um, uh, you should not leave it like this. You have to follow the instructions or requirement of your project, and output has to satisfy the technical specifications or the instructions provided at the time of the certification. So let's say they ask you to write the data tab separated. Each value in the tuple has to be output tuples has to be tab separated. So now tell me which API you should use before invoking the save as text file. Okay, now WC is of type RDD, which have elements of type tuple, string and int. Now I want to change it into a string where the element is tab separated. So what API should we use? For each input record, we have to get one output record. Input record is tuple, output record is of type string, which is tab separated, map. So we have to use map function first and then use save as text file. So here, what I'm saying, map rect is of type tuple. Okay, so let us take this as example, and val p equal to okay. So this is tuple. Now I want to convert it into tab separated string. How can I do that? Okay, p.map, and map is first of all No. T is just okay. Let us see whether T dot map have. There is not T dot map. This is just a single element of type tuple. So we here we don't need to use map. Yeah, T dot underscore one plus tab plus T dot underscore two. Okay, so your map function should have the logic of this, where uh, the elements are tab separated. On top of this, it also have a function called productivity. No, productivity will just there is a without productivity. That is not the one. It will just fetch the yeah. We can there is another function. It is not written here. Yeah, yeah, that is correct. So so here you can say product iterator, and then you can actually say underscore dot mk string and tab. Okay, so takes example. Okay, I just have to. So I will explain that in a moment. Okay, so you can use this one also. So what is product iterator? Product iterator is a special method which will facilitate you to iterate through them. And then mk string is the function where collection of a collection can be converted into a string into one string using the delimited fast. So for example, if I say val a equal to array of hello and world, okay, I can say a dot mk string and it will work. So product iterator is nothing but it is actually converting the tuple into kind of iterator, and then mk string is a function available on top of it. This is a functional way of doing the stuff again. Okay. Anyway, you can use either of the approach. Either you can say uh, the t dot underscore one plus like this, or you can also say product iterator dot mk string. Okay, let us see if mk string will work directly. Mostly it will not work. Yeah, because it is not of type iterator. Tuple is not iterator by default. Okay. So here we can say rect dot product iterator dot mk string tab as the delimiter and then dot. Okay, we can write the program like this. You don't need to create all these variables separately. Okay, actually we can write everything in one line. Okay, we can run it like this also. So this is the complete program to get the word count. If you compare this with Java MapReduce, if you are familiar with MapReduce, this is a lot more simpler. Okay, now I can say to run this, I have to delete the existing directory, so I'm deleting that one. And then I'm running the program again. So those who are online, sorry, we will not be able to have the afternoon session because my wife is sick and she has to be admitted in the hospital. So I have to go a little bit. Uh, I have to wrap up earlier today. I will give the update by the end of the today. Stay tuned. Um if the session will be cancelled for tomorrow, I will let you know. But most likely it will be there. But I will confirm by the end of the today, around 6:30. Okay, but I will continue and I will conduct this session very soon. Okay. So here, let me now go to the word count directory, and you can see it here. Now the results are tab separated. So I will give some time here, around 15 minutes time. You just write the program and test it locally. Okay, and then when we start next time, I will actually compile it into jar file, and we'll try to test it on the cluster, and then we will understand how we can actually execute in detail, and then we will proceed further. So make sure you use application.properties, integrate that thing as part of your application, because we will try to build on top of this going forward. So you guys have done it.
If you want to have a specific format for the output, if it is doing some part of the output diagram.
Okay, that is not that straightforward. It can be output directly. We have to use HDFS APIs to do that.
So these are default behavior.
Yeah, that is the default behavior. So make sure you add the dependency to access the config factory. It's in the chart. If you guys scroll up a little bit, it's in the chart. So going forward, you don't need to worry about it. It will be further out.
Any external dependency, not importing, import the jar and import the manually.
We can do that, but it's not the right way.
Sometimes.
Yeah. What is that?
Units. You have to the signal. For units, is still getting that. You did just again paste it.
Okay, okay.
Where did she paste?
Okay,
Okay, okay, got it.
The expectation is really comes up, but here it is not expecting. In IntelliJ, only to do.
Okay,
Passing in FPD console.
okay, got it. And Gautam actually responded to her.
Yeah, I got it.
Madhav, you have to go back and watch the videos. And at this time, I have to stop this session, and I will not be able to proceed further. Thank you, Atif, for your feedback. And sorry, I have to drop in the middle.
Madhav, first you have to stop using the spacers in the past and all those things. It will resolve a lot of your issues. So now if you add this, right, if you select this, add type annotation. So you import that and it will get it. That's why it was without
You have to add normal directory. Eventually will come, but you will take it. So you just have to right click on the name. Yeah, directly. And resources. So make sure you have the directory resources under source main. If it is not, if it have not created automatically, you have to add it. Your file. Yeah, so you have to give yeah, equal to local. And then cross out so it will confirm when you run the process. Yeah, and that's the point. You have to remove the one. Edit config, no. Edit config. Edit config. You have to put it from the mountain. Then go back. Wherever you have created a work from the file locally. You have to generate some test data. So you can fill this. Okay. Dami, I will have a look at yours and I will fix those issues, okay?
So I'm giving you the presenter rights. Okay, now you can share your screen. Shravani, you can share your screen. I will try to take care of. Hello, Shravani. Yeah, I have to see the screen. Why it is taking so long to get the screen? Yeah, now I can see. Okay. So those things you can ignore. Scroll down. Okay, your program ran successfully. No, they are not errors. Can you check the output whether you are getting the output or not? What is that?
I was just trying to print the count of the lines.
Yeah, you got the lines count, right? One. There is only one line in that file.
So it's happening.
Yeah, it is running.
Thank you. I
No, those are not errors. Infos are not errors. If it is error, it will throw error, and also you will see the exceptions. Okay, you can actually change the path to .tx and try to run this program. Then you will see how the error will look like. So here, just to do this, I'm taking the control. I will try to produce error. Please approve my request to take the control. Okay, now if I just say this and then save it, and then run. Now you see there are exceptions. So typically, if there is an issue, you will see something like this, the complete exception, and you should go to the beginning, and you can clearly see it is complaining about input path does not exist. Earlier, you just got confused because the one is hiding somewhere in the logs. You thought you were thinking all the logs are errors. Okay, so it is good. So that being said, I am dropping the online session. I will be concluding the session very soon, and I will keep you posted whether tomorrow's session will be there or not. Most likely it will be there, but again, it depends upon what doctor says in the evening. My wife's situation is very bad, and sorry for it. Okay, but I will definitely take care of the sessions in very near future. Okay. I'm concluding the WebEx session, and those who are on YouTube live session also, thank you very much for joining the session. And afternoon session will not be there. And if you like this video, please click on the like button. If you want to share with your friends, please click on share and share with your friends. And as I have mentioned, there was a session planned for the afternoon, but that is stopped because of my wife's health. She is hospitalized, and I have to go there. I will try to start conduct the same tomorrow, but if there is any reason due to which I could not, I will just drop the session for tomorrow also, and I will take care very soon. That being said, thank you. Bye. Is it running for you?